house I rented was too cheap for what it offered. 3 bedrooms, a big yard, and a mountain view that looked straight out of a postcard. The only catch, according to the listing, was that the basement was occupied. I didn't think much of it. The host said, "They're long-term tenants, totally separate. You'll never even know they're there." For the first night I moved in, I heard footsteps on the basement stairs, slow, heavy, stopping right at the locked door at the bottom of the hallway. And someone whispered, "We don't like the noise up there." I'm a contractor. I was working on cabins near the ridge, needed a place for 2 months, nothing fancy. The ad looked perfect, cheap, private, pet friendly. When I arrived, the host wasn't there, just a note on the counter, keys upstairs, renters in the basement, separate entrance, please don't disturb. There was a basement door, but it had a bolt on my side. The air leaking through the cracks smelled like damp laundry and bleach. I figured the host kept it locked to keep things private. That night, I unpacked, ate leftovers, tried to ignore the occasional creak below the floorboards. But around midnight, I heard the bolt click once, just enough to move, like someone had touched it from the other side. I stayed quiet and listened. The sound of slow breathing drifted through the gap under the door. "Turn it back." I froze, didn't move an inch. A minute later, the breathing stopped. The next morning, the door was locked again, but the bolt was turned the opposite way from how I'd left it. I called the host, no answer. I texted, "Someone came upstairs last night." He replied hours later, "Impossible. Basement renters moved out last month. Should be empty." That made no sense. I asked why he hadn't changed the listing, and he just texted back, "Long story. Don't open the basement door." By day 3, things got weird fast. When I came home from work, the lights were already on. The kettle hissed on the stove, and my boots, muddy when I left, were clean and neatly lined up by the door. The bolt on the basement door was unlatched again. I jammed a chair under the handle, sat on the couch and waited. The floor beneath me began creaking like someone was walking circles underneath. Then a voice, calm, polite, called up, "We were told to stay quiet. You're making it hard." The air vent beside the couch rattled. 2 fingers, grey, thin, slipped through the metal slats and tapped 3 times. I ran outside and didn't come back till morning. When the sun came up, I decided to end it. I called the host again, demanded answers. He finally picked up. His voice was shaky. "Listen," he said, "don't go down there. That's not a rental anymore. The basement flooded years ago. It's sealed." I told him that wasn't true, that I've heard people, voices, footsteps. He went quiet for a long time, then said, "And someone's been letting themselves in through the crawl space." I didn't wait for more. I packed everything ready to leave. But when I went to grab my bag from the hall, the basement door was wide open. The air spilling out was freezing, damp, almost metallic. On the inside of the door, written in charcoal across the wood, was a sentence, "Turn it back." Below it, handprints, dozens, pressed into the grain like wet clay. Small, large, old, fresh. I slammed the door shut, dragged the couch in front of it, and got in my truck. The host called again later that night. He said he checked the property. The basement door was nailed shut from the inside. He laughed nervously and said, "Guess the renters wanted their privacy after all." He relisted the house 2 weeks later. Same photos, same price, and the same line in the description. "Basement occupied. Please don't disturb." I rent remote cabins for work trips all the time, but I've never left one shaking before. The cabin I stayed in last winter wasn't haunted. Well, not exactly. It just had a book, a thick, leather guest book sitting open on the table, already waiting for me. On the page, in neat blue ink, was my full name. Same handwriting as mine, same curling R, but the date written next to it was 2 days in the future. That night, I woke up to faint scratching in the dark, like a pen writing slow circles on the paper. The sound stopped the second I lit a candle, and when I looked at the table, the guest book had turned 1 page forward. The place was perfect otherwise, 1-room cabin in the mountains, firewood stacked by the door, snow starting to fall outside. I booked it last minute. The host said, "Checkout's automatic, just sign the book before you leave." I remember laughing about that message, but when I saw my name already there, written for the day I was meant to leave, I couldn't. It looked too exact, like I'd already stayed, and someone had copied my hand. I tried to brush it off, told myself maybe the host filled it out for my booking information, but that night, every time I closed my eyes, I heard that soft, patient scratching again. Morning came quiet. I checked the book. My name was still there, but the ink was darker now, fresh. I touched it, wet. I wrote underneath it, "Weird prank, not funny." I went out to split wood, hoping sunlight would make the place feel normal again. But every time I looked through the window, the book seemed closer, to the edge of the table. By evening, I couldn't shake the thought that whoever was writing in it didn't want me to leave. When I sat down for dinner, a new line had appeared under my note, the same handwriting as mine, "Don't leave anything unfinished." The fireplace crackled. I swear, I heard breath behind me, short, quiet, like someone trying not to be heard. I turned. Nothing. But the guest book was open to a new page now, blank, waiting. That night, the scratching started again, louder this time, not steady, hesitant, like someone struggling to remember the letters. I didn't move, I just listened. A minute later, my own voice whispered from the dark, "How do you spell it again?" The candlelight flickered. I couldn't breathe. Then another voice, lower, distant, answered, "Leave it, it carries." The sound stopped. I didn't sleep. At sunrise I just packed up and opened the book one last time. The page had changed again. Same name, same future date. And now it wasn't my handwriting anymore. It was my mother's. Beneath it, a message. "Good. You remembered to finish your stack." I slammed the cover shut and left it there, locked the door, dragged my suitcase through the snow. When I reached the road, my phone finally got signal. The host had texted me back overnight. "Thanks for checking in. Please remember to sign the guest book before you go. It helps us track departures." I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, I looked up the listing again. New photos, same cabin. The last one shows the table, the guest book open. You can't read the writing clearly, but if you zoom in, you can just make out 2 names, one crossed out, one starting with my initial. The rest is smudged, like someone dragged their hand through wet ink. The caption says, "All guests must sign before leaving." The couple in the cabin across from mine never opened their curtains, not once. I was renting the place for a week, remote valley in the Rockies, 3 cabins total. Theirs was directly opposite mine, same layout, same porch, same chimney, but every window was covered from the inside with thick, black fabric. On my second night, I saw movement behind the fabric, someone standing close enough that I could see their shadow, and they were facing my cabin. Then the light went out, and I realized something terrifying. There wasn't supposed to be anyone staying there. The host told me the other 2 cabins were off-season empty. Mine was the only one available that week. That was the selling point, total quiet. When I arrived, the place looked abandoned, snow up to my knees, Dead branches everywhere, no tire tracks in weeks. It wasn't until I unpacked that I noticed the opposite cabin. Same design, same porch swing, except all the windows were covered in black. Not curtains, but taped plastic or garbage bags. At first, I assumed the owners were just renovating, but later that night, when the wind died down, I saw a faint yellow glow behind the plastic, like candlelight. Someone was in there. I went to bed around 11. Around midnight, a sound woke me up. 3 slow knocks on my door. I didn't move, waited. The knocks came again, exactly the same rhythm. I peeked through the peephole. Nothing, just snow and dark trees. But when I looked across the valley, the covered cabin light was gone. The next morning, I found fresh footprints outside. Bare feet, 10 prints, leading from the opposite porch to mine, and then back again. I called the host, no answer. I texted, thought I was alone here. He replied hours later, you are. No one else booked this week. That night, I watched the other cabin from my window. I wanted proof I wasn't imagining it. At exactly 10:37, the light behind the black coverings came on again. I saw a figure pacing, tall, thin, moving in slow circles. Then a second shadow joined it. They stopped and faced my direction, and even though I couldn't see their faces, I swear, both of them raised their hands and waved. I packed my stuff immediately. I didn't care if I had to hike out in the dark, but when I opened my front door, the snow outside was untouched. No footprints, no movement, yet the porch light on the other cabins was on, even though it hadn't worked before. I tried the host again, straight to voicemail, so I left, dragging my bags through the snow towards my truck parked at the trailhead. Halfway down the path, something caught my eye. The black fabric on the cabin's window was gone, every window, and there, standing in the open doorway, were 2 figures. No faces, just shapes in shadow. They weren't waving anymore. They were holding up what looked like a large sheet of black plastic, stretched between them like a curtain. I turned and ran, didn't look back until I hit the road. When I got home the next morning, I checked the listing again. It was gone, entirely deleted. No record, no address, nothing. A week later, the host finally texted me back. Sorry for the delay. Did the right thing leaving. That property's been empty for months. The windows are sealed for asbestos removal. No one should have been inside. Then he sent a second message, right after. By the way, you left your porch light on. I saw it in the photo. The photo attached showed my cabin at night, lights glowing warmly through the glass. But behind my curtain, just visible in the reflection, were 2 dark shapes standing shoulder to shoulder, each holding up a black sheet, covering everything behind them.